Well, hey guys and girls, welcome to another day with Ranger Matt, PE Slick Podcast. It's your host, Ranger Matt, here in the house. Thank you for tuning in today. For those who will be, I got another guest on today I gotta say, he's a fan of one of America's talked about children's show from the 90s, which originated in 88. And it was a part of my childhood in a very large way in a lot of cases. And just to give you a heads of what it is, I got a little clip I'm going to play before we introduce our guest.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Shay Snob, I'd like to invite you to sing along with one of the all-time great musical masterpieces. Maestro. Raindrops will hammer drops and gumdrops. So what a rain that would be.
What's he doing up there?
Standing outside with my mouth open wide.
That's the
Raindrops will hammer drops and gumdrops. So what a rain that would be.
Well, that's right. My guest was as a Barney fan, just like I was. I got another collectioner merchandiser from the Barney world, you know. Myself was a fan of Barney for a number of years as a kid growing up. So this gentleman here was a part of the documentary that came out last year called I Love You, You Hate Me. And I'm happy to have him on. Mr. Andrew Olsen is here. Hey, Andrew.
Thanks for having me, Matt. So
I appreciate you coming aboard, buddy.
Sure.
So from that clip, I'm sure you've seen the movie when it came out.
Oh, yes. That's actually the first movie I remember seeing in theaters. And I love that scene. I think we're celebrating 25 years of that movie coming out this month. So it was a good one. It's been a while.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yes, sir. I remember when that first came out. I don't know how old I was, but I remember when that came out, it played on one of the Barney videos I had at the time. So I'm like, okay, this is going to be engaging. So, you know, I was a fan since like number of years since I was a kid. So all the way back to the backyard gang years. So
Great.
yeah. So how long have you been a Barney fan?
Honestly, my whole life. I kind of never graduated from Barney, you could say. I mean, I didn't, watch it religiously in, high school or middle school, but I never kind of moved away from being a Barney fan like most kids do, and kind of turned into Barney haters per se, once they hit a certain age. So I'd say, my entire life has kind of been surrounding Barney, I guess, and his principles and, the character himself. And so, yeah.
I'm smiling a bit because I was looking at your shirt. It resembles a bit of the Barney bag. I don't know if you know that.
Yes. I had this custom made. So,
wow. Yeah, I was just I didn't pay no mind if I'm looking at like the Barney bag. It's the first thing that hit my mind,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is a hard question, but do you have a favorite moment or song from the show?
Oh, shoot. There's so many good ones. I'd say my top two favorite songs. Friends Are Forever. It was in one of the very first Barney videos, Three Wishes. It was only used once in the entire series. And I don't know, it's just a very emotional song listening to it and kind of understanding Barney as a character. Of course, I Love You. That's just a classic staple for Barney.
Right.
So,
one thing I spoken with I don't know if you met him, Fred Holmes, who's the director on the show. I spoke with him, and I'm gonna tell him like I told you and some others. I always considered that song. I know it's a children's show, but the "I Love You" song I've always considered that can be an adult song as well, of an all age song, because it's a song telling somebody that you love them, and the world has changed so much over the years since Barney went off the air. It's like that's a song that I think everybody needs to hear. It's a true song.
Really, if everyone in the world understood, the true meaning behind that song, but behind the true meaning of Barney, there'd be so much less hate in this world. And that's why I love Barney so much, is because he really shows how the world could be if everyone kind of lived by those loving principles of love your neighbor, love everyone. So
Right. Yeah, for me, it's really same thing. I can't pick a favorite song, or it's too hard. But I always say the Bob West era was my favorite because when I got older, he was gone and Dean Wynn was there, and I remember being home watching. And I was like, Barney's voice sounded a little different, but I found out years later Bobby retired and Dina came in. But that era I didn't see. But the Bob West early years until about season 5 or 6, and when they did Night Before Christmas, those eras was the ones I remember the most that stood out. And probably Just Imagine and Mr. Sun are the first two that comes to mind for me.
Those are good ones. I love Just Imagine.
So, how did you get involved with the documentary on Barney?
That's a good question. So, that goes back to prior to COVID. I hadn't been super involved in Barney collecting or Barney fandom or anything like that. And I honestly didn't even know that kind of stuff existed. I kind of thought I was just an oddball that loved this purple dinosaur as an adult. And so I was on Instagram scrolling one day and I came across some Barney pages or whatnot. And I realized that, there are other adults out there like Barney. Exactly. So
me too.
I in high school and through college and everything, I really got into puppet building. And kind of Barney kind of brought me into that hobby. I kind of realized one day that someone gets paid to build Barney costumes. And I was like, that is the coolest job ever. I want to have that job. And so that's what kind of got me into puppet building and such. And anyway, prior to I started making replica dolls of the original, show dolls they had on the show. Started posting them on my Instagram. I started an Instagram page called Barney Builder, and all these Barney fans started coming out of the woodworks and following me and like messaging me and everything. And I kind of realized there's this whole world that I didn't know about that I probably should have. And so I got connected with a lot of people. And then, I feel like growing up and like through high school and middle school, after it kind of, graduated from, Barney as a toddler, I always wanted to know how things were done behind the scenes. And, by design, they kind of shielded viewers from seeing, that Barney is an actor and that, there's directors and production designers and art directors and all that kind of stuff. But now that's been, 30 plus years since Barney was created, these people started coming out of the woodworks. And, I find a couple of them on Facebook. And, Jess Nelson, who was, the original production designer for Barney, started posting, behind the scenes photos that had never been seen. And I thought it was so cool to see all these things.
I've seen them.
Yeah, right. Right. Sorry, I'm jumping all over the place, but I promise
it's okay.
It all ties together at the end. So anyway, I'm building these replicas and gaining, friends and a following and everything. And then Jess Nelson, who was posting all these, BDS photos and everything, he starts this Facebook group called Barney Plush Fans. And I decided to join it on Facebook and met a bunch of other people and such. And he started sharing, stories of what it was like working on Barney and everything. I thought, this is so cool. Why isn't this history recorded somewhere? In order to find the Barney story, you really have to dig for it. There's the Barney wiki page, but even everything back then, back then is a couple of years ago. Even then, there wasn't a ton of information, and even that kind of information wasn't the most accurate. And so I was like, there needs to be a place where people can come to learn Barney history, the Barney story. And as I started digging into it, I, learned how unique of a creation story it was and how awesome it was. And so one of my other friends in the fandom, his name is Caleb Denton, he messaged me, and me, him, and one of our other friends, Jackson Gates, we all got together and we started a Facebook group called Barney History Fans. And our mission was really to preserve the history and integrity of Barney the dinosaur. And so we started that in What was that? It's been July. It's not even been 2 years. July 2021 or something.
Mm-hmm.
And after, like, it was like a month after we started it, one of the producers of the documentary, Tommy Avalone, messaged us, and he met with me, Jackson, and Kaylin individually, over Zoom and such, to talk about Barney and, our story with Barney and Barney's history and everything. And, I really didn't think anything much of it. I was like, oh, that's cool. They're doing a documentary. I remember seeing the Mr. Rogers documentary and thinking, why isn't there one for Barney? And so I thought it was cool that they were doing this. And, and at the, I was like, if I'm going to help out in any way I can, I had some contacts with some Barney crew members and cast members I offered to put them in touch with and such. And at the end of the meeting, they're like, we really like to fly you out and put you on camera. And I was kind of, what? It came out of nowhere. So I was like, oh, okay, sure. I was kind of speechless. But,
Right.
it's kind of one of those moments where you dream of, being involved in some sort of Barney project your entire life. And then it just hits you in the face. And you're like, this is a pinch me moment. And so I was like, yeah, sure. That sounds great. And so, but even then, I know I have family that works in, Hollywood and production, and what says today may not necessarily, happen 2 weeks from now, So I kind of had my expectations low anyways, but sure enough, a couple weeks later, we get on the schedule and they're like, we want to fly you out to Los Angeles. We're going to try to film you down there when we're in the area. And I was living in Virginia at the time on the East Coast. I was like, okay, sure. But I was from California. So I always loved going home. And so I put it on my calendar a couple weeks out. They're like, actually, we had to cancel you. We are way overbooked with people down there. And so I was kind of like, yeah, I kind of expected that. But then they're like, maybe we'll try to get you in New York. And so a couple weeks passed, didn't hear anything. 2 weeks before they said they wanted to film us, I get another message and they're like, we're going to fly you to New York and we're going to film you in Brooklyn this date. And sure enough, followed through. And I went out in November 2021 and a camera for 4 hours and told my story. So from there, I don't know how far you want me to go in it, because there's a little more. You want me to finish the?
Please continue on. Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So we finished filming and everything. I honestly thought I butchered the entire interview. I was so nervous, but
really, it didn't show on camera when I watched it. You looked too calm.
I was pretty nervous, but. But I told my story. I told Cheryl's story, the Barney story, and all that kind of stuff. And they're like, cool, we're planning on releasing next summer sometime. So we'll hit you up, when we have a release date and title and everything. I was like, okay, cool. So really didn't expect to hear from them after that. After the holidays, I get a couple emails from another producer, and they're like, Peacock is really loving you as kind of a central narrator for this series, and we have a bunch of voiceovers we want you to do to kind of transition between scenes and such. And I was like, oh, sweet, okay. I thought I totally butchered your guys' doc, but okay. And so they for I don't know, probably 3 or 4 months, they would send me lines and everything, and I would record them at home and then send them back to them. And I don't even know if any of those got into the doc, but like a week before they were supposed to turn it in to Peacock in last June, I get another call and they're like, hey, we're kind of desperate. We need some filler footage. Would you be willing to fly out to New York again next week? And I was like, sure, why not? And so, hop back on a plane and sit in front of the camera for another 4 hours. This time I felt a little more confident. So if you're confident, Andrew, then it's probably the one in June. I'd also lost like 30 pounds. September and June, and so there's some scenes where literally shoots between, bigger Andrew, minus 30 pounds Andrew. So,
Well, shoot, can you give me some advice? Because that's what I'm doing now. I'm trying to lose some weight here.
so anyway, it was
Mhm.
good. And then last summer waiting was like painful because I wanted to talk about it so bad and I couldn't until the announcement came out.
Yeah.
And then I had to wait. I didn't get to screen it before it came out. I had to wait like everyone else and see it in October. And so that's basically, the gist of it. It was a really fun project to be a part of. I got to know a lot of cool people. There was one scene, I got to know Bob really well, Bob West, while doing it. And we actually filmed footage that ultimately got cut of, Bob talking to different fans over like Zoom and everything. And so that was fun to, talk to him a couple of times since then.
Yeah.
But it was just a fun series.
So when you first spoke with them, like, did you already know like that was gonna be the title of the movie? I Love You, You Hate Me, or was that like a work in progress at the time?
I didn't. So actually, in June, in June I found out. So when
Okay.
wasn't titled yet in during my first interview in November. But then it came out in June, and he's like, Tommy was like, don't tell anyone, this is gonna be the title, but it's I Love You, You Hate Me. And so but yeah, it was some people love the title, some people hate it. I think it's for what they did. I think the title worked because, breaking it down, Barney showed the world love, but a lot of the world showed Barney hate in return. And so I think for what they're going for, it worked out really well.
Yeah.
But I helped them kind of prep for promotion within the Barney fandom. And we met a couple of times before the poster was going to be released. I remember he was really, really worried about the poster coming out because I think it's a VHS tape on fire or something. And so we had this big conversation and meeting about it. Because there's a lot of sensitive, a lot of the Barney fan community, a lot of them have special needs, and they don't understand why people would hate Barney. And so there's a lot of things we had to kind of tread lightly around and be more sensitive towards other people's feelings and how they're going to take things. And so I helped them with all of that in the process.
Yeah. I'm just engaged here in how you got involved with it. I was impressed by like how fast it got done when I read like how long it took. I know movies take like maybe 2 years to get done, at least 3, and they move very fast to get it done. I'm trying to let me see. I'm trying to find the right words to say about it. I like the movie. I mean, I did have mixed feelings, of course, because I love Barney, and I was kind of shocked to find out how much people hated the show. My mother herself, she never watched it, but when I told her about it, I remember her telling me a story about how we went somewhere to get a Barney tape or something. Because like you, I had a lot of tapes, toys, everything of Barney, and she told me a parent was talking about how they hated the show, and she couldn't figure out why. And I can't figure out. Excuse me.
You're good.
I couldn't figure out why either, because it's just another children's show. I mean, when I grew up, I confess it, and people know it. When I grew up, other than Elmo and Big Bird, I didn't always watch Sesame Street. Don't get me started on Care Bears. I hated the show. The movie, I'm not into it. I think it's too lovey-dovey. But it's like with Barney, it was a safe show. I mean, it's never been labeled a Christian show, even though if you watch the early episodes, Tina sings "God Bless America." That she was 5 years old. It's not Christian, but it's a Christian-like show because you don't hear cussing, they don't get mad. Barney, in the first year, he slipped and fell on the fire truck. He didn't get mad. He laughed it off. It's like you show all these elements of a show that deals with love, and yet people didn't get it, and that's something that I didn't understand. But in terms, it was educational for me of seeing what the world was like, not liking it, and they did a lot of research to get the I forget his name, the one who started the website, the Haraj. I forget his. He did the
The-
website on Barney and he ended up getting interviewed and all that. But it was just yeah, it's just amazing how much of that went on behind the scenes, and a lot of people like me didn't know because it's another kid show. I mean, come on,
Right.
who gonna start a haters page on Mr. Rogers and all that stuff? But it was educational about that and hearing about Cheryl and her past because a lot of them has not done interviews since the show ended, so a lot of things like that we don't know about. So it was
Right.
educational.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories that even like still haven't come out about the behind the scenes kind of aspects of the show by design. And I mean, you're talking about kind of the Christian elements. Well, it was a very Christian based company that made it. I mean, Dick Leach, who funded the entire show, he owned a Catholic publishing company. The entire crew from that original show, they're all very heavily Christian based in Bible Belt in the South. So those kind of aspects of the Christian value system and all that. I think there was a lot of elements that were carried over from that into Barney, into making that such a
Yeah.
loving show there. So
Did you? Well, I know you said you communicated with Bob. Did you talk with anybody else from the show? Well, from the movie?
yeah, I've talked. Well, yeah, I know most everyone I've talked to. Probably I've talked to over 36 crew members and cast members. So
Yeah.
yeah, they're great people. I mean, they really believed what they were doing, and it really shows in their own character. How they treat people, and just how Barney treated people. So they really did believe in their cause and everything that they were doing there with Barney.
Right. I thought it was also interesting that y'all had like Bill Nye and Steve from Blue's Clues. I mean, because for me watching that, I was like, they got Steve from Blue's Clues and Bill Nye. I mean, because it's like they had their own show, so it was interesting that they had people from other children's shows come on to talk about Barney. That was very cool.
I will say my favorite part in the entire series is, Steve from Blue's Clues coming on at the very end and asking everyone, who is your Barney? And I totally lost it there. It was, I got really emotional. I'm not an emotional person at all. I lost
Right.
it. So. Good.
Okay. How many Barney merchandises you have? 'Cause I know you got a few behind you. How many do you have offhand?
Man, I think it's like 600 something at this point. Yeah.
Wow.
So, and I honestly, with Barney collecting, a lot of the stuff I had as a kid, I think my mom must have gotten rid of because I have very few. I had one Barney doll as a child. I had some Barney clothes. I had a couple VHS tapes. I didn't really have a ton. My parents don't have a ton to spend on me because I'm one of 7 kids, and so there's a lot of us. And so I remember my mom telling me that she scrimped and saved to take me to Barney's Musical Castle, the live show, when I was little, and she used to say the diaper box tops or whatever to get me like free Barney stuff. So they were kind of, most of the Barney stuff I had was hand-me-down anyways. But, once I hit adulthood, I really didn't start collecting until during COVID is really when I got into serious collecting. I was living in Virginia in my tiny 1-bedroom apartment. And, I was going to school out there, and I need something to keep me busy because, the school wasn't letting anyone go out and socialize, school I was going to. And so I just started collecting, and it's kind of turned into this big hobby. I don't know. So.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, man. I don't know how old you are, but I wish I would have known you years ago when I was collecting, because just like you, I had them all. I don't know if you ever had it, but around the time Sing and Dance came out, they had this Barney come out. It was like $100, and my stepdad got it for me. And it was one of them talking Barneys, and it was cover my eyes. They play peekaboo, and I played with that thing over and over and over again. I was just star crazy over Barney.
Yes. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And like you, I saw Musical Castle. They came here because I'm in Baltimore, and they came here. The one, I don't remember what year it was. I remember they came here, and when I went, it wasn't that many people there. It wasn't a number, and we was like off. We was like here, and the stage was here. And my mother, who knows the show, when they got to Miss Knickerbocker, she was like, "All right, they're getting down," because they, because she, like I said, she loved Baby Bop,
Yeah.
So. And when Barney gave the kiss at the end and the hearts came down, I went. A few came down, but not near where I was at. So I ran down and got a few of them. And I was so into Barney. And this is a true story. I was so into Barney at that time. After I got them, I wanted to run backstage and say, "Hey, Barney, I love you."
Yes. I remember the only memory I have I have two memories from that. One is during intermission, trying to run down the aisle and trying to like hop backstage to see Barney. My mom caught me. That, and when all the streamers came out and everything at the end, I remember my mom grabbed a bunch and we like kept it in her diaper bag for years. And I think she eventually got rid of them. But we had those probably for like 5 or 6 years afterwards in that diaper bag. So.
Man, it was something, and also, I don't, the other thing that was big for me too was when they did Radio City. Now, I didn't see that, but at the time, Toys R Us was big. They didn't have any tapes. My mother had to order some. And I was like, "Oh, please, come on. So when I got mine, I was glued to it. 'Cause I was like, Radio City's big. The Grammys and all that there. That was a big show. So when I saw it, I was just glued to it. And then, the links that comes out, I'm like, who's this clown leprechaun coming up trying to take the freaking Barney bait off the whole show? You know what I mean? And then I found out years later it's David Voss, who was the original Barney himself. I had no idea.
That's great. The night before I was filmed in New York for the documentary, I went and saw the Radio City Rockettes, the Radio City Music Hall. And sitting in that room is just like, I know Barney was only there for a couple of nights, but it's just, I don't know. It's magical just sitting there and knowing that Barney was on that stage, and the Wingster was up there in the balcony. I felt like I was in my childhood, so it was great.
Yeah, I looking at that scene with the Wingster and Barney up on the top. It's like they're up there, the audience is up there. That's I remember watching that going, because I know now that was Carrie Stenson doing all that up there, but I was like, are they a little scared that they might fall because they're up there and the kids is watching this and they're not, I was, again, because of me making movies, directing, like I want to learn about cameras and all that, even as a kid, I was always fascinated. Like, how did they do that? And what's with that? It just, Radio City was really their biggest production over the years that they've done. And I think that and Barney in Concert, their very first one, which I think was the first one I've ever seen of Barney, that too was another big one for them.
Right.
So. Man, where was you at years ago when I needed somebody to talk to you about this, man?
Man, like I said, I thought I was kind of the oddball and, being the weird, crazy adult that, loves sparkles,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I'll touch on though about the documentary as well that I was going to ask you about, what like did you? I don't know if you saw it beforehand or when the movie came out, but were you fascinated by the behind the scene moments of the show and Radio City? They had a couple of behind the scenes stuff from the TV show and all that.
I was surprised that footage existed, at least especially from the first 3 videos. But that was some of my favorite parts, is seeing that kind of BDS footage that hasn't come out yet. And I didn't get to watch it early or anything. I get to watch it with everyone else. So I think the only one I know of that got to watch it early was like Bob West, because he was doing a bunch of the promotion for the documentary. And I remember, I didn't really know how much I would be in it. I'd heard that I was in a good amount from Tommy,
Mm.
but Bob messaged me night before it came out or something. He was like, "You rocked it, Andrew," and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Hearing that from Bob, it was it was a special moment. So
Yeah,
but yeah,
and I give I give Bob his props for because he is somebody who is still carrying the Barney legacy in terms of interviews, talking about it. He's not one of the people where it's like, oh yeah, I did Barney, moved on, don't want to talk about it. He is still, even today, he's still do the live streaming. He's fan events. He's the greatest. Yeah.
he is. He's a good guy.
Yeah. Well, Andrew, well, I say, what was your favorite moment in song? What do you like? What is a word you could sum up where Barney is concerned? Like, what's one word you could sum up about Barney?
Love. That's it. Barney is love. Really, there's so few people that truly understood Barney, but those that do really exude, Barney's spirit and showing love towards everyone, love towards your neighbor, being accepted, being heard. That's really what Barney was all about. And it's crazy to see that, this children's character from over 30 years ago is still, going strong today. And I, looking around, I don't think there's another children's character before or after that has had the cultural and social impact that Barney has had on the world. I mean, I don't think, Paw Patrol or Blippi could fill up the, Radio City Music Hall.
Right.
And that's not like a diss, but it's just like Barney had something special, and it really showed for an entire generation of children that was touched by him.
Almost definitely, and it's. I remember telling Fred this. It's weird that because you said generational, that Barney was on for so long. Like, it started in '88. Right. Like, when you think of Barney, it's like, to watch it today, it's like this was a '90s show. Like, it was on for a number of years and different generations. And even if you watch like Barney in Concert, Radio City, Big Surprise, Musical Castle, Colorful World, different generation of parents and children there each time. It's like it grew and touched people. We need that. We need more of that, or another of that. You got anything to say about this? Talk about the reboot?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have a solid opinion. It's I kind of look at it as, go into it with an open mind. It's not going to be, the same Barney. If you're going to expecting, to see 1992 Barney on the screen, you're not going to see that. It's going to be different. But, I know there's a lot of mixed opinions about it. But at the end of the day, it's not being made for me. It's not being made for, my generation. It's being made for the toddlers, the upcoming generation. And if Barney's able to touch them in a new way, and if, the show producers are able to stay true to Barney's foundational spirit of love and, kindness and being accepting of everyone, I think, it could be positive for a generation. So they need a Barney too, just like we had a Barney. And might be a little different Barney than our Barney, but hey, I kind of think of it like, someone that went to Disney. I love Disney. Someone went to Disneyland in 1955, and then someone that goes to Disneyland in 2023, and trying to compare the two. One's not better than the other. They're both different. One you may have a preference over the other, but it's all about what you grew up with is going to be more special to you. So
right.
That's how I kind of approach it and look at it.
The way you answered that, I gotta say, you should be a motivational speaker, or like the way you talk, man. I mean, I'm getting engaged with it, man. Just
oh yeah,
yeah. I think you should, man. But that's a good, solid answer you gave. Well, I thank you for talking with me today. We talked a lot about the documentary about Barney. You blew my mind talking with me, man. I've been waiting to talk with you for a while, and it's just like, hey, this other this other twin here.
I'm
Yeah,
glad we aligned and we can get together. This has been a lot of fun.
yeah, same here. And I'm always thankful whenever I talk with somebody that was a fan of the show and still like Bob, others, myself as well, who keeps Barney's spirit alive and going. It was a great show for its time, and we'll see what happens when they come out. They say it'll be out next year sometime. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see.
Well, Andrew, thanks for stopping by my podcast, and I'll be with you in a few once I wrap up here.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt.
Oh, wait a minute. Anything you want to say to the fans? Hold on, let me take my. Oh, okay. Yeah. Was there anything you wanted to say to the fans of Barney?
Keeping fans, keep showing love wherever you go, and know that Barney loves you. So
there you go. All right. Well, I'm gonna close things out, and I'm gonna talk with you. I'll be right back. Well, guys, thanks for tuning in today. This has been another great interview, Pete Eastlake podcast. Tune in soon. Been a lot going on with my job and other things, so I hope to have another guest on real soon. But stay tuned. I got more coming up, and check out my other page, past and present. I have a couple more soap episodes I'll be posting real soon, and tribute videos I'm doing. It's more to come. So stay tuned. God bless. Be safe. Have fun.